So I heard you guys love to talk about Halo, and I know how much you love when I talk about Halo, so why don't we talk about some fucking Halo? I know, the issue is dead and buried. It's so dead and buried that it's fucking fossilized.
This fossilized tree sap, which we call
anger! And God knows neither you or I want to sit here and rehash the same weather-beaten bullshit for the Googleplex iteration. So that's why I wanted to talk about something a little bit different, but no less vitriolic, because that wouldn't be fun for you, now would it, you little glutton for punishment? You little Mark 6 bitch suit wearing Cortana Gravemind tentacle porn surfer. I have tried to dispense lately with the unfettered negativity about the things I don't like, and instead have favored riding the happy cab. And by riding, I mean clutching the bumper and flapping helplessly on the concrete like a cartoon character. Seriously, being optimistic is really hard, and props to you if you've got the stones to stick with it. This means offering constructive input on issues which are otherwise devoid of any redeeming characteristics whatsoever. Unfortunately, that just tends to make me even more angry when the solutions to some of these problems are so stupefyingly obvious that everything you read from the horse's mouth comes across as 100% pure, unthreshed, organically grown USDA choice bullshit. Nonetheless, this video will attempt to remain positive. Halo is a game with a perpetual identity crisis. Has been from the very get-go. One half squad, one half arena. On one hand, you've got recharging shields, a 2-weapon limit, grenades, reloading, and a relatively leisure movement pace. On the other hand, you've got weapons on map, distinct vertical orientation, no bloom, no classes, and a static sandbox. Ordinarily, this combination of factors would have combined to produce some sort of grotesque, mutant freak hybrid of a multiplayer experience. Which it did. But it worked, even though that balance was resting on a fulcrum so delicate that you could wreck it just by breathing on it. Well, Bungie didn't just breathe on it. They dogpiled on it. And 343 was the fucking fat asshole who thinks it's funny to jump on the top and crush the ribs and dreams of his buddies. I'm not going to debate whether Halo ripped features from Call of Duty, or ripped features from Crysis, or ripped features from Titanfall, and ultimately became a pathetic shell of its former glory, because I'm in a sober, argument-free period of my life and none of you wastes of consciousness are worth relapsing over. Instead, I would like to ask a simple question. Did it really have to go down this way? Now, most people will have you believe that in any sector of the entertainment industry, those that work with the highest budgets are those that routinely fail to push the artistic envelope, and I think that's a fair assessment. It's simple capitalism, really. Those who receive the most investment are those who are expected to produce the greatest return, and therefore their priorities become skewed not in the direction of artistic progress, but rather getting every unattentive parent in the industrialized world to buy their Ritalin rat a highly polished time-sink turd to shut them up for a few merciful hours a day. The Halo of duty! And while I understand that working under the thumb of Microsoft is probably akin to a video game internment camp, I just can't help but wonder whether at any point someone just stood up at a board meeting with the suits and earpieces and said, "Isn't there a way of doing this that doesn't shit on our day one fans?" Or maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe everyone involved with the Halo franchise is just that intellectually lazy and barren of any constructive genius. The dilemma facing the Halo franchise around 2007 was that Call of Duty was beginning to emerge as a console monster and one that was directly competing with Halo for interest, whereas previously, Halo had been the uncontested top dog of not only shooters, but of Xbox Live in general. Now, we all know the cheap, corner-cutting, dishonest way that Bungie and 343 decided to go about structuring the multiplayer element of Halo, which was to pollute it with stolen features until it was so unrecognizable that it was begging to be put out of its misery. I have loadouts and sprint. Why don't you love me? Even now, as I'm writing this, there's a Halo reveal going on that's showing Halo wants to barge in on MOBA territory like an unwanted party guest who saw where you were going on Facebook. But let's just assume, for the sake of positivity, that the developers also had some kind of creative vision that they wanted to realize within the series. The thing here that needs to be understood is that trying to be on the pulse of what is hot in your particular sector of business is not a crucifiable offense, especially in the entertainment business where a product's sales are not tied to its actual quality, but to its perceived quality. Gosh, if only there was a way to investigate one's creative ideas while keeping true to the elements that made the original series such a masterpiece. Maybe you should make a fucking spin-off! Let's segue over to another hit franchise, Final Fantasy. We're on Final Fantasy fucking 34 or whatever, and the main series really hasn't changed all that much, to be honest, with the exception of one game that was an MMO, and one game that's a perfect fucking example of what I'm talking about, but that's not what I want to discuss. So you're Squaresoft in 1997, and you're like, fucking been like 7 Final Fantasies or whatever. Let's do something new for a change. But you know for a fact that people are loving what you've been doing so far, and you have the powers of cognizance necessary to understand what's actually fucking good about your game. The historical precedent has already been set. Gamers don't like being thrown for a loop. Look at Star Fox Adventures, look at Yoshi's Story, look at Devil May Cry 2, look at Other M. Changing the most stable and recognizable characteristics about your game has almost never resulted in success, and this holds true even in other forms of entertainment. Look at Dungeons and Dragons, look at the Star Wars prequels, look at fucking Metallica. So you're sitting there, you're racking your brain, you're sweating it out over a cold coffee at 2 a.m. in the morning in your office thinking, what do I do? How do I respect the history of my game while offering a fresh experience to my players? How can such a magical fusion of concepts even be possible? Knock knock, who's there? Final Fantasy fucking Tactics! Holy fucking shit sandwiches, it's like it wasn't even that hard to come up with a practical solution that pleases every demographic whose pockets you're trying to slither your disgusting corporate tentacles into. Microsoft clearly already has the money to burn. They hired like 17 different development teams to work on one stupid project. I don't think this is a logistical issue. By deconstructing the expectations of consumers and allowing them to approach a new experience with an open mind, you not only effectively nullify any possible discontent, you open up a whole new cosmos of possibilities. You can create complex parallel storylines, you can write non-canon extension games, you can do experimental genre fusion. Not only will you have multiple revenue streams and annual releases, but you can cycle development talent in and out as you please. It's like game developer fucking Avalon. When Sam Raimi wanted to make a weird mashup of comedy and horror, he didn't make Evil Dead 3, he made Army of Darkness. When Maynard James Keenan wanted to make an extremely watered-down, radio-friendly music project, he didn't say, well, I've got a pretty good thing going with Tool, better fuck it all up by forcing my fans to accept any artistic license I choose to cram under one singular brand name. He fucking went and made A Perfect Circle. And not only do we know that it works for other forms of entertainment and other game franchises, we know for a fact that it works for Halo. Remember Halo Wars? You didn't see Ensemble Studios stuffing RTS gameplay down Halo 3's throat and Frankensteining the next Halo title together with stitches and duct tape just to meet a fucking deadline. I mean, sure, it didn't blow the doors off RTS and topple StarCraft 2 within weeks, but by all accounts, it was a very successful release and is most certainly a beloved installment. Yeah, we gotta make the shooter aspect fresh in Halo. Well, too bad you missed the fucking boat with that. Oh, gee, I don't know, what was that one game? I don't know, ODST? The game that's literally about operating as a squad of grunt-level raiders. The game that was as close to a squad simulator as Halo ever got. Make a spin-off! Yeah, you have to market it properly, but if you don't know how to market, then frankly you've got other career opportunities calling your name. Then we won't have any more Qualo Call of Crisis Falls being hawked to us at E3 by those who either can't or won't snort a little pixie dust and come up with some creative genre benders. I mean, come on now. The Halo series is bursting at the seams with different gameplay opportunities. How much cooler would Reach have been if you'd experienced it within the framework of a massive Medal of Honor style war simulation and all the theatrics that went with it? The Covenant UNSC space battles are the absolute perfect game board for an RTS or even an EVE Online style combat arena, and would be a spectacular way to teach the unplayed history and lore of the franchise to those who haven't read the novels and all the other extraneous material. How about an actual horror game based around the Flood, an Amnesia or Dead Space style experience from the perspective of the Forerunners? Wouldn't that be awesome? The point is that if you do these kinds of things, that leaves our hero, our savior, everyone's favorite grunt-punting, flood-bitch-slapping super soldier Master Chief to do what he does best, which is a James Bond-esque solo showcase of the sickest Spartan skills out there, while continuing the main story arc going forward, and gives us a chance to leave the multiplayer alone. That doesn't mean you can't try new things with your moneymaker. It means you can build other games from the ground up with no shared mechanics. You can't treat your franchise cash cow as a guinea pig. Otherwise, you drive your user base from 500,000 online to 20,000 at best. But hey, first day sales, man. Fucking breaking records, bro. The fuck do I even know?